Has joined us.
I have
So
joined. How's everybody?
All righty, how are you and yours?
Excellent. We're doing okay. We're doing okay.
Wonderful. I'm thinking about you.
Yes,
Oh
no, thank you
yeah.
for that.
Oh yes.
He's
Oh
doing better.
yes. Good. Praise God.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello, Principal Gail. This meeting is officially called at 5:15, and thank you everyone for being able to join us. We really appreciate this. And let's see, no public comment guidelines, most likely. Khadidra, if you see any, where I
Not
may
at
need
this
to do
time.
so. All righty, thank you very much. Roll call, please, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Madam President. We'll begin with Hilda Parlay,
Present.
Marilyn Bonnet,
Present.
Mark Marley is not present at this time. Selena Gary is present. Nicholas Gorno.
Present.
Nicholas Gorno is present. Scott Dable.
Present.
Scott Dable is present. And Willie Thompson. Willie Thompson is not present. It appears, Madam President, that we do have a quorum of members present.
Yes.
I will now take the roll for the non-board members. We'll start with Principal Brandy Gill.
Present.
Kaditra Cooper.
Present.
Donna Rasco.
Present.
Donna's present. And that concludes our roll call.
All righty, thank you very much. So
Madam
we get
President?
right down.
Madam
Yes.
President, Matt
Yes.
Perfett is also on the line tonight.
Okay, yes, I see. Mr. Perfect. Thank you for joining us.
Madam?
Thank you so much.
Afternoon.
All righty, thank you very much. Approval of the agenda. Approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
Madam, it's Marilyn.
Yes.
I move we approve Board of Directors special meeting February 4, 5:15 p.m. I'm sorry.
All right, then.
I move we approve the agenda for Board of Directors special meeting February 4, 5:15 p.m.
Thank you. And we may note that it is an emergency meeting. So would you restate the motion, please?
I move to approve the agenda for the Board of Directors emergency meeting February 4, 5:15 p.m.
Thank you very much. Is there a
Okay, Madam-
second?
Yep, Madam President, it's Scott. I'll second that.
Thank you. It has been moved by Marilyn Bonet and seconded by Scott Dable that we approve the emergency meeting for February 4, 2021. Discussion? All those in favor, roll call, please, Madam Secretary.
Hilda Parlay,
Approve.
Marilyn Bonnet,
Approve.
Mark Marley is not present. Selena Gary approves. Nicholas Gorno.
Approve.
Nicholas Gorno approves. Scott Dable.
Approved.
Scott Dable approves. Willie Thompson is not present. We have a unanimous decision of all members present, board members present, to approve the motion for the agenda of our Board of Directors emergency meeting being held February 4th, 2021.
All righty. Thank you, Madam Secretary and Board. I do not believe we have a need for a closed session. So we will get right to the discussion item. And the discussion item is operating model K5 at Wake Forest Charter Academy. Discussion, please, of a motion that was passed at our last meeting that we would open with K5 Plan A, 4 days a week, 50% capacity, beginning March 3rd, 2021. Mr. Gornell, would you like to start the discussion, please?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Madam President. I had an uneasy feeling about this after the call, and it continued as I saw some reaction from parents, and I had a phone call today from a parent with similar concerns, just of the fact that 50%, maybe that wording within the move, excuse me, with the with the what we were discussing in our action item, and I think that the 50% is the one thing that we're all, that was the concern from these parents. And honestly, I had that concern. I asked the question about it. I should have kind of continued on with my instincts on that, but my concern and what I've heard from other parents is just that we have students that will be that are on a hybrid model now, and if we continued with that 50%, it would mean that we would have some parents that would be moved off into full virtual, and that is a concern of mine. And it sounds like this discussion is to move off of that verbiage to allow some flexibility for more students and not get stuck on a 50%. Those are my concerns, and I'd like to hear what the other board members have to say.
All right, thank you, Mr. Grinnell. Any other board member would like to make a comment at this point? Mainly concerning the 50% quantifying.
This is Selena Gary. I have a question for Scott.
All right, Mr. Gary.
I'm sorry, not for Scott, for Nick.
Mm-hmm.
Nick, are you saying that parents are concerned that if we open at 50%, that they will not have an opportunity to come back and will have to stay at virtual for the rest of the year or until sometime in the future?
That's correct, Ms. Gary. If we do the numbers out, there was right around 20% that were fully virtual right now. That leaves 80% of our students were either in a hybrid model. We're in the hybrid model. So assuming that, a large enough percentage of those hybrid students would want to do the 4 days a week, that would leave off a percentage of our population. And I don't see that being fair. And that's what I hear from other parents, is that they're worried that their child would be forced to go to full virtual. So.
Okay.
All righty, thank you for that explanation. Any other board members with a comment, please?
Madam, it's Marilyn. I have a question.
Yes, Madam Burnett.
Would, in the proposal, would at least 50% be better, Nick?
Ms. Burnett, I believe what I heard was gradual introduction. This way it's not on a number per se. It allows the 4 days a week, allows some flexibility, and there's going to be a percentage of our students that are going to request virtual anyway. So we're going to have not a full capacity classroom. But yeah, I don't know what at least 50% would necessarily, I don't know what that would do differently.
Okay.
All righty, thank you, Ms. Gary and Mr. Nicholas again. So basically we're saying that 50% should not be quantified and that the best term to use would be gradual. We're going along with the other parts of the motion, or the motion to be mentioned tonight or stated tonight. Any other comments?
Yeah, Madam President, I just have
Yes.
one last thing. I'd like to hear from the other board members just that on that case. I don't want to pass anything today that would force a parent or students to not have the opportunity that a large percentage would. You know, if as we're doing this, I believe that opportunity should be for everybody, not first come, first serve. I don't see how that would be a real option. I want to hear from the other members on that.
All right, thank you, sir. And as I've been thinking too, gradual would be a better term as opposed to quantifying the 50% or any other percent. Attorney Rasco,
Yes.
what implications would we have if we were to stick with the 50% and or how would gradual being part of the motion make better sense, if you will?
And I apologize. I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage. As you may recall, I was present for your meeting yesterday when you had the discussion, but not present for the vote. Is it possible for somebody to restate the actual motion from yesterday? I'm understanding that we're sort of interpreting and trying to wrestle with that actual language and perhaps make a change to one or two words. So it might be helpful to make sure we have the actual motion clearly before us.
Thank you, Attorney Rasco. Madam Secretary, would you like to repeat that motion?
I'm looking for it now. I have to go through my notes.
Okay, I could say it, but I think that would be very apropos for you to repeat this motion.
Open session. 1 second.
Madam President, if I may, this is Donna. I will say,
Yes.
based on the comments that made before, it is certainly, the language of the recommendation from the governor that the board was discussing yesterday certainly is to strongly recommend that all public schools provide in-person instruction using the safety protocols from the NC Strong Schools Toolkit. And based on all the comments, certainly elsewhere in the letter and that I saw during the press conference, I think, I don't know if it was Mr. Gourneau who was commenting that the intent clearly is to increase the opportunity for in-person instruction. And so however you're fashioning your language, it would certainly make sense that you're making provision for more in-person instruction and not limiting it.
Understood, and I understand that very well. Madam Secretary, are you ready?
I need just a few more minutes here. I don't have the right book out. I'll be with you in just 1 second.
All right, I could state it, but as I said, I think it's very apropos
Yes.
for you as Secretary to restate the motion. Or not restate it, but state the motion
I know I have it here.
from yesterday's meeting.
Pages are,
Mark is on. Mark is on. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mark, what time did you join us, please?
At 5:27.
Thank you very much, so noted.
Madam President, would you please go ahead and do it? I know it's here. I'm just not finding it.
Okay, the motion was that we go to Plan A for grades K-5, meeting 4 days a week at 50% capacity beginning March 3rd, 2021.
So Madam President, this is Scott. So just hearing
Yes, Mr.
that,
Dable.
what was, so I, of course, missed yesterday's meeting as well. But what was the thought process behind the 50%?
Nichols and others, some of the parents are saying that 50% by quantifying, we would have to select children or students on a first come, first served basis to be a part of that 50%.
Okay.
whereas we're
I-
looking
the re-
at 50% versus gradual.
Madam
Go ahead,
President,
Mark.
Mr.
the
Mark,
idea I think was, I'm sorry. The idea was that there were parents and teachers who had reluctancy to have their kids in school, but there were on the other side desire to have their kids in school. So that's the impression I got, that we were trying to accommodate both parties.
correct, and that
Yes.
is what I conjecture as well after the meeting, because we do have to think about.
Madam President, I have the motion that we presented.
All right, let's see how correct I was.
Okay. The motion was for the approval of the K-5 operating model to a model of option A at 50% capacity and 4 days a week, beginning March 3rd trimester, the third trimester.
Yes. All righty, so what we face, Mr. Mark, go ahead.
I'm sorry, one more thing. I'm sorry. The idea also was that our space capacity would not be able to provide sufficient separation between the children for COVID protections, proximity of each other, trying to keep them safe apart. I think that was the other side that the Principal Gill mentioned, that would be a struggle for the classroom size to manage the kids to be far enough apart.
Yeah, and Mr. Marley, so it's Scott. So I'm just trying to figure out, how do you determine the 50%, right? What 50% is versus isn't, right? So if you have 60% that want to, how do you determine the 50%? And I don't know if that was discussed yesterday.
Yes, we did. And Principal Gill, would you share that with us again, please? Now, we have to always keep about safety. We always still have to think safety for our children. So, Principal Gill,
Yes,
would you
ma'am.
share again what the logistics would be for K-5 as far as proximity within the classrooms?
Yes, so we would struggle to have in our K-5 classrooms to social distance, but that's definitely something we can. I do have some logistics and a short presentation that I can share with you guys. I have spent a large part of my day trying to work through some of the logistics of moving to Plan A. Would you like for me to present that information to you guys now to help with some of the conversation?
Yes, we would. Please do.
Just 1 second, I will pull up the file.
All righty, thank you.
Sorry about that. All righty, do you guys see?
We can
Yes,
see
we
it.
do.
Okay, great. So some of the things, first of all, I want to thank the board for coming back together this evening to talk about the logistics of everything and try to work on moving our Wake Forest Charter Academy staff and students back safely to Plan A. As mentioned by the governor, we do want our schools open and our kids back in school, but we do want them in safely. So after some consideration and going through numbers, I do believe that looking at the 50% would be hard to quantify. So here are our numbers so far. And some of this is what I showed you yesterday, but we're just now focused on K-5 with the Plan A. So these are our numbers. And when I had an opportunity to actually quantify, and look at it, we are, our student totals right now do have us at an operating capacity in K-5 at 63%. So we are above that 50% capacity. That's why I do believe I asked for the meeting to look at the verbiage and look at gradual versus the capacity of 50, so that we can increase our students coming to school that want to come and be in person. So some of the logistics around that and looking at our student population to have them attend, I really would like the board to look at the verbiage and move it to gradual, so that we can have an opportunity to slowly move our kids, and that our teachers have an opportunity to also prepare classrooms for the increase in numbers. So some of the logistical options around that is looking at, as you know, a survey went out today for our K-5 families. And we're still collecting that until tomorrow at 5, but just at a glance before our meeting, we had about an 80-20 split. So to try to meet the need, we looked at the population of doing a staggered return by last name based on numbers and over a 2-week period. And this would help us with a smooth transition and have our students in after that 2-week period, everyone that has signed up for a plan A. This gives our teachers an opportunity to look at the classroom layout, move desks around, switch from tables to desks to try to meet some type of separation with kids in the classroom. So we do have that logistical option. We also looked at staffing and talked about our subs. We did have an increase in subs, and because we do have an increase in subs, just letting you know, 2 of those subs would go to maternity leaves. We do have 2 teachers going for maternity leave, but also having subs to cover teachers that are going on medical leave, and to use our subs to assist with decreasing our or limiting our class sizes by opening up virtual classrooms and letting those teachers teach from a remote location, so that we can separate classes to allow for more distance between our students, so that we're not having our kids so closely sitting together in our K-5 classrooms. Also, looking at our virtual academy, there would be some, there would be some changes to our virtual academy as well. Based on the numbers, and with right now what we have is an 80-20 split, with 20% wanting to stay virtual, which means that some of our virtual classes may be combined. I'm still working on the logistics of a schedule for that, but combining our virtual classroom would also help. So you might have a K-1 classroom with 1 teacher. The teacher assignments for students would change. So if you have a virtual student that's moving into hybrid, you may have a different teacher when you come back in trimester 3. And then virtual students may stream into multiple classes. So a virtual student may have multiple classroom teachers, and possibility of students having multiple teachers in K-3. And that's typically our model for 4th through 8th grade. And to kind of go back a little bit on our subs here, and looking at we do have some teachers that is a possibility that they would go out on medical leave due to our plan A. And so we would have to use the subs to cover them while they teach remotely. So even though those kids would be in person learning, their teacher would be remote with a sub in the classroom monitoring. So there's a lot of different options that we talked through today. Again, we won't have solid activities of what our school would look like and our classrooms would look like, but we could move to plan A in a gradual staggered return with our students based on their last name, I believe would be the best option. So we would have time to work through our numbers and work through transitioning our students. And removing that 50% would help us to work through the logistics of plan A.
And Principal Gill, I know we've talked about substitute teachers and limitations there. Has that number increased? It sounds like it has.
Yes, so as of yesterday, we have 7 subs. But again, we will be using those subs to 2 of them would be covering maternity leaves. The rest of would be helping to cover possible medical leaves for when we move to Plan A, and some teachers go out on medical leave. And then we also talked about possibly if teachers are working remotely, to use their classrooms to decrease class sizes, which then means we have a long-term substitute in that classroom to monitor students that are learning remotely. So that would decrease, it's nice that we've increased our sub pool, but we will put all of our subs to work that want to work going into Plan A.
All right, thank you very much, Principal Gill.
Yes,
Are there any
ma'am.
questions or comments? So basically you're saying the 4 days a week, Plan A, K-5, gradual by last name and staggered. Would that be beginning March 3rd?
That will be beginning on, yes, ma'am, Thursday, March the 4th would be the first entry date for students.
So which one, March 4th?
Yes, ma'am, for gradual
As of
return.
March 4th. Okay, for gradual return. And while we're on that March note, let's see, I believe spring break is March 29th to April 2nd. So will we also have to consider that all of the students who are returning K-8 would be taught virtually after spring break?
Madam
Principal
President,
Gill?
may I comment? Yes. So yes,
Yes,
I believe
please.
I think that would be a good option. We've done that for our other holiday breaks. During spring breaks, a lot of families travel. And so with the spread of COVID, allowing that week back after the break for things to kind of settle, parents, students and families to get back in town, and I guess and kind of to say be still for a week in home before returning to school would be great. It gives an opportunity for us to, make sure that families don't have symptoms or no one comes back testing positive before they come back into the building. That is something definitely I believe the staff would greatly appreciate. We have done that for our other breaks during this time period.
All righty, thank you for that explanation. And Attorney Rasco, if we would take an action item tonight or action items, would that be 2 action items for Plan A, K-5, based on 4 days a week, with a gradual return by last names by March 4th, and to include the after spring break?
Right. What you might consider doing, you could do it either way. What you might consider doing is 2 separate actions just to have as much clarity as possible. Obviously, these are difficult decisions, and you guys and NHA, school administration, Principal Gill are working feverishly to stay on top of everything. So just for clarity for yourselves and parents and everybody else, it might be helpful to do 2 separate motions, because one motion is going to be to modify the action you've already taken, and then perhaps the second one, it sounds like, would be separate to deal with spring break. Madam President, if I can make just a couple other comments, I appreciate you all
Yes, please.
the motion, as I said earlier. The comment I was going to make was simply to be mindful that with the decision from the state leaders and the governor, and the revisions to the Strong Schools North Carolina Public Health Toolkit, it was indeed your task to work to return K-5 students to in-person instruction 5 days a week to the fullest extent possible, while following all public health protocols. And this guidance, this updated guidance as of February 2nd, does, of course, include the local flexibility and planning that every school has to do. So you all are very much in that process. And I just wanted to make sure I'm clear. I mean, it sounds like this is what Principal Gill is proposing and implementing, but the idea is K-5 needs to be able to get back in as quickly as possible. 612 cannot go back in fully, and that remote learning needs to continue to be an option for those families who choose it. So as long as you have all those things covered, that plan sounds fine. And what Principal Gill described sounds like it fits exactly within the guidance with regard to, the local school deciding implementation. This sounds like a matter of implementation, not sort of, restricting who gets to come back. It's just a matter of implementation.
Well, thank you, Attorney Rasco. Thank you very much for that. And Principal Gill, any other comments or questions, board? Is everybody clear on what the two motions would contain?
Madam President, if I may, this is Donna again. I would suggest that it sounds like from everything I'm hearing that the board might very well have a motion to modify your decision yesterday to provide for, let me go back to the language you gave me. Plan A for K-5, 4 days a week, beginning March, whatever that date was, the 3rd or 4th, with a gradual implementation, and maybe some language, as described by school administration, something to that effect. This is one of those times that it sounds like that Principal Gill and NHA have worked pretty hard, even just in the past 24 hours, to sort of work through all the details. And I can only imagine there'll be some more of those to work through. So the board might very well, offer that general decision, which will then leave, again, the implementation details in her hands.
So should the implementation include 5 days or 4 days?
Well, that part you might go ahead and decide. The guidance talks about 5 days, but I think 4 days would be something you could do. I know other people who are doing 4 days. The thing that I might not include is something like by last name. Principal Gill has shared with you that that's one way to do it, what she's thinking about, but I don't think the board needs to decide at that level. I think if you use the language gradual implementation as determined by administration, that would probably be sufficient, unless anybody has a concern about that.
All righty, thank you. Board members, you say?
Madam President, this is Nicholas Gorno. I just have a question for Principal Gill. What is the difference? What is it going to look like, and why 4 days instead of 5? I'm just curious on that.
So we're looking at the 4 days versus 5, and one of the things that we have found that really has helped us try to maintain safety here and making our staff feel safe here too is the cleaning. And so the 4 days, having Wednesday as remote, does allow for us to close the building for 24 hours. Our custodial staff to do a full clean of the building, so that when our staff and our students return on Thursday, the building has been fully sanitized. And so that's why we're asking for the 4 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday as a remote day, Thursday, Friday, and then the building is cleaned again over Friday night and the weekend, so that we have those 2 days of sanitation. And that is also partly because our teachers have not yet been vaccinated, and our teachers, to be quite frank, are very concerned about moving towards Plan A. And so looking at making sure that we allot that time for sanitation is really something that I hope the board will consider as we're trying to move forward to allowing more students back in the building.
Thank you very much, Principal Gill and Nicholas, for your question. Any other questions or comments from the board?
Madam President, this is Nicholas Gorno again. Thank you,
Yes, Nicholas.
Principal Gill, for that answer. And my other question, just I was just looking at the notes that she provided. I just wanted to be clear: is the gradual is leading up to March 4th, or is the gradual start March 4th, and we won't have all our students till a later date? I'm just curious on that. Well, when will all our students be back, basically?
So we're looking at doing our kids coming in slowly, starting on March 4th by last name. So we would have a set that would come in the 4th and the 5th to give a good feel for putting that many students back into the classroom, and then looking at the next week, adding the second set by last name. And so then we're looking at all of our kids being in by the 15th of March. If we can get them in before, I will be very honest, I have not worked out a full rotation of what that looks like. I would like to have numbers before I do that, but that, just trying to put something together really quickly today, and just off the top of my head is how that would look, is a rotation by days, getting our students back in as soon as possible. If we can get them in before the 15th, we definitely will, but want to give an opportunity to slowly move back into plan A. Again, with our classroom sizes and putting subs on board as well to support, that doesn't, create the need for onboarding for new staff. And some of our students have not been in school at all. So reteaching expectations and procedures and routines is also would be included during that time.
Thank you, Principal Gill.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Principal Gill and Nicholas.
Yes.
Any other board member comments, please? Is everyone understanding the two motions that will come before us? And if
Could you
so,
repeat those? Madam President, could you repeat those motions, please?
okay, as I'm taking notes here, the first motion would be to use Plan A for grades K through 5, 4 days per week, with a gradual implementation as described by school administration, beginning March 4th. And then the second one pertains to all students, K-8, returning after spring break, which is March 29th through April 2nd, would be on remote learning for the week after spring break. Did I get that right, Madam Secretary? Or any other board member? Did I miss anything?
Could you repeat the second motion again?
Well, it hadn't been stated yet, but all students will return after spring break, March 29th through April 2nd, the week after spring break. All students, K-8, would be on virtual learning or remote learning. The week after spring break.
I might make an amendment. Madam President, I may make an amendment that according in that with without something akin to with no further adjustments by the governor of North Carolina.
Which one? The second one?
The second one, yes, ma'am. That we return unless the governor changes the plans. I think we should be clear on that.
Okay.
Madam President, this is Donna. May I comment?
Yes, please.
It's interesting. I think that point is well taken, and it's fine if you want to put it in there. I would suggest to you that every motion that you are making and will make for the rest of the year is always going to be subject to that. And to that point, of course, there's legislation swirling about that has the potential for having further impact. But of course, there's nothing that you or any other board can do until those decisions have actually been given to you.
Right.
So, I mean, again, it wouldn't hurt at all, but because even your first motion, theoretically, there could be adjustments to those directives, you know,
Right.
for the week after or something else.
Got you. Thank you, Attorney Rasco. Any other comments, board? And at this point, we will need to amend the agenda to include 2 action items. One would be to approve the operating model for K-5 and implementation of students returning after spring break.
Madam President,
Yes.
I think if you want to do that, that's fine. I would suggest to you, you don't necessarily need to amend the agenda. I would consider both of these to fall within the scope of your operating model.
Okay, but we don't have an action item on the agenda.
On the website study.com, they say
right?
an action item is a single, clearly defined task that must be.
I think what she's saying is they're related and close enough that we don't have to make that agenda adjustment.
All righty. So now, is there any more discussion on either one of those upcoming motions? So therefore, I will make
Madam
the
President.
first motion. Hello?
Yes, hi, Madam President, may I ask for, the board might consider funds to help us as we are moving to Plan A?
Funds,
Yes, ma'am.
and related in what way, please?
So related into the need for PPE equipment, possibly some more outdoor learning space to increase our outside areas for learning for students. If the board might consider maybe 5,000 for moving forward as we to support with safety of the staff and learning spaces, outdoor learning spaces for students as we move towards Plan A. And for the remainder of the year. This would help to alleviate students learning inside the building and, help us to move to outdoor areas. And when the weather, of course, improves, it's a little warmer, but being able to have that would be helpful. And of course, the PPE would help our staff members feel safe.
Now, Attorney Rasco and board, we are allotted already coronavirus funding. So I'm not understanding why the extra.
This is Donna. It is true, and I don't recall off the top of my head, the information that the board would have been presented the last time you did a review of financials. I think that's a reasonable question to ask. Although based on some other board meetings I've attended this past week, I'm understanding that is a ongoing process. And so it's reasonable, again, for the board at some point to get an update on what you received, what's been spent, what it's been spent on, that kind of thing. Although I will also say I've certainly seen other boards consider and approve requests such as, a little bit of an additional board fund money for the purposes such as Principal Gill mentioned. Now, it would seem to me that it's going to be difficult for you to sort of have a financial report right now. So it seems to me that you might need to give consideration to what Principal Gill has asked for, without that financial review, but perhaps you can revisit it at your next board meeting, which is only going to be a few weeks away, with a full financial report.
Thank you, Attorney Rasco. I think that would make
I would agree with that.
more sense because we just couldn't make that off the cuff, which today we are trying to get the model straight. And then Principal Gill, you could present that at our next meeting.
Madam
Board
President,
members, from you, please.
Madam President, this is Mr. Perfect. May I add something to that discussion?
Yes, Mr. Perfect, please.
So in terms of COVID funds, NHA, will take care of that request in terms of PPE for staff. So that I don't know that the board really needs to consider, allocating any funds for PPE. NHA's been providing those items for staff upon school request, so we can take care of that request for Principal Gill. In terms of the outdoor seating, I don't know that that's, and again, I don't know if that's an allowable COVID expense because it's not providing direct support in terms of COVID release. It's more of a secondary opportunity just to provide a space that's a little bit more socially distanced and outside. So if the board were to consider approving funds, it might be for the outdoor seating rather than personal protective gear for the staff. So just a note on that. That's something that we do cover. And quite honestly, if Principal Gill were to come back and say, hey, we might consider outdoor seating, and we bring that to NHA, that might be something that we cover too. I think Principal Gill was just seeking maybe an opportunity if the board wanted to get involved with some of those safety protocols to support the staff. I think that was sort of what she was getting at there.
All right, thank you. I think that should go on the next agenda. We'll take care of first things first, as far as I'm concerned. Okay. Board, are we ready for a motion? All right, I'll make the motion if I can clearly get all this together. I move that Wake Forest Charter Academy moves K-5 to Plan A 4 days per week with a gradual implementation, no last names mentioned, beginning March 4th, 2021.
I'll second.
Okay, it has been moved by Hilda Perlay and seconded by Mark Marley that we move
Yes.
grades K-5 to Plan A 4 days per week with a gradual implementation as described by the administration. Discussion. Not all those in favor. Roll call, please, Madam Secretary.
Madam President, Hilda Parlay,
Approved.
Marilyn Bonnet,
Approve?
Mark Marley,
Approve.
Selena Gary approves, Nicholas Gorno,
Approve.
Scott Dable,
Approve.
Scott Dable approves. It looks like we have a unanimous decision on the motion to move Wake Forest Charter Academy K through 5, grades K through 5 to Plan A 4 days a week with gradual implementation as with the staff, as developed by the staff beginning March 4th.
Well, that should say as described by administration.
As described by administration,
Right, beginning March 4th.
beginning on March 4th.
Okay, that is unanimous. And who would like to make a second motion pertaining to how our students K-8 will learn after spring break? Do I hear a motion, please?
Madam, it's Marilyn.
Yes, Ms. Barnett?
I move that all NHA Wake Forest Charter Academy students, K through 8, return to 100% virtual learning the week after spring break.
Thank you. Is there a second? Is there a second?
Madam President, this is Nick
Mr.
Gorno.
Nick.
Nicholas
Let me
Gorno.
restate. Yeah.
I
Mr.
second.
Gano? I'm not hearing. Who's seconding, Scott or Nick?
No, this was Nick.
All right, Nick seconded that, okay. It has been moved by Marilyn Manette and seconded by Nicholas Corneau that Wake Forest Charter Academy K-8 students will return to 100% virtual learning after spring break, which is March 29th to April 2nd. Discussion. All those in favor, roll call, please, Madam Secretary.
Hilda Parlay,
Approve.
Marilyn Burnett,
Approve.
Mark Marley,
Approve.
Lena Gary approves, Nicholas Corneau,
Approve.
Scott Dable.
Approve.
We have a unanimous approval to move all Wake Forest Charter Academy students, grade K through 8, to return to school learning the week after spring break, which is March 29th through April 2nd.
All righty, thank you very much, board. Is there any new business or anything for the next agenda at our March 3rd meeting? Any signs that
Madam President.
Mr. Mark?
Madam President.
Yes.
I would like for Principal Gill to get us some numbers for dollars needed so that we can plan accordingly. I'd also like to make sure that Khaditra is prepared to provide information that NHA may be able to assist with as well.
Regarding
Funds for reopening safely.
Thank you very much.
For PPE.
Well, as
we put that on the agenda.
Perfect said, we don't need the PPE as much as for funding for outside learning.
Well, again, I'd like for clarity on what Principal Gill might need for her teams to feel as safe as we can help them be. We need all the teachers participating, but we need them feeling safe in participating.
Got you. Thank you very much. Is that so noted, Madam Secretary?
So noted.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, board.
Thank you, ladies.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, gentlemen. Thank you, ladies.
Okay, any signs of public comment, Ms. Cooper?
Not at this time.
All righty, thank you very much. We'll forgo that. Any announcements? Any announcements?
My wife is turning 60 tomorrow.
Oh no, she's a young chick. She's not a board member. We can't say happy birthday. Hours. How about that? Okay.
You asked for announcements. I just thought I'd make one. There you go. Sorry, guys.
I did. I didn't say on the Wake Forest Charter Academy, did I? All right. Thank you very much.
This is Donna. May I ask you a question?
Yes, Attorney Rasco.
I'd like to ask Mark, did he have permission to say that?
I know that's right.
Let me say, when she's been accused of being 39 by a gentleman at Wegmans, not at Wegmans, but at the pharmacy, standing in line waiting for her medicine, yes, she's okay with me saying she's 60.
Oh,
You gotta be proud to say so. All right, let's move along with our business here. And if no further business, I move that we adjourn.
I second.
I'll second that.
It has been moved by Hilda Parlay, seconded by Nicholas Gordon. No, that with no further business, we adjourn. Any more discussion about any matter on the agenda for tonight? If not, all those in favor, roll call, please, Madam Secretary.
Hilda Parlay,
Approve.
Marilyn Burnett,
Approve.
Mark Marley,
Approved.
Selena Gary approves, Nicholas Corneau.
Approve.
Nicholas Corneau approves, Scott Dable.
Approved.
We have a unanimous decision to approve the meeting. The time right now is 6:12.
6:08.
I have 6:08.
6:08, sorry.
Thank you. The meeting is officially adjourned at 6:08 p.m. Thank you, board and Principal Gill and Mr. Perfect and Ms. Cooper.